Imagine a world where there is no vegetation around you, where oxygen is so limited that even to go out, you have to bring your own oxygen tank. Imagine such a world where your children have to suffer just because of the consequences, just because of the actions that you have already done in the past, and now they are bearing the consequences of such actions. Imagine a world where the land that you step on relishes under your feet, and then it is so dreary that even water and oxygen is something that is very scarce and you have to fight for it, which is something that used to be limited, unlimited, abundant in the past. Imagine such a scenario, how dreary and how suffering and how it is very hard, how harsh the condition it is for you to live in such a world. I think given the conditions, given this scenario, none of us wants that to happen to us and even to our future generations, our hope of the world and many other things. My name is Roisayudha and I'm here to talk to you about what these scenarios what bring in the future and how we are going to mitigate this problem. In my opinion, environment in terms of SDG is something that you should take into considerations. We know that it is important, but I think the amount of consequence and the amount of importance that we put into it is taken into such within a grain of salt that it is something ignorable for most of the people. Indonesia possesses almost one of the 20th of the biggest forests in the world, and I think it is something for us, a moral burden for us to keep it safe. The amount of oxygen that is processed by the forests of Indonesia is so significant that even the simple case of fire in Indonesian forests creates a lot of problems to a lot of countries. The neighboring countries, most of them complained about it just because of the forest that happens in the Indonesian forest. I think given that paradigm already, it is a moral burden for us for the better futures and even for our own benefit that it is only right for us to create a better future, to create a better forest, and therefore I suggest us it is time for us to reforestate those of the forests that have already been ruined by our own irresponsibilities. The things that we have currently at the moment in Sumatra, for example, Sumatra possesses 2/3 of the forest that is currently inhabiting Indonesia, right? It is only it is as big as the forest that we have in Kalimantan, in Borneo, for example. There are a lot of ecosystems there. There are a lot of flora and fauna also found there, and therefore, other than producing oxygen itself, the richness of the ecosystem itself is something that we need to uphold. Therefore, other than the moral obligations for the future's benefit and all of our benefit, it is only beneficial for us to even take care of the forest itself. Now, what happens currently is that the forest that we are currently inhabiting in our country is something that I can say quite neglected. For example, the ecosystem of Batang Toru in Sumatra, for example. It is home of hundreds and thousands of orangutans, which we already know only exist in the forests of Indonesia, right? People from outside of the countries come to our country just to see a glimpse of orangutans, and here we are ignoring them and neglecting them. Just because of our own benefit to build, for example, a company or even a mining institutions or whatever, or even buildings and many other things, we sacrifice the forests themselves and thus pushing and kicking out the orangutans that live in the forest on our country. And therefore, reforestation is something that we should do. It is something feasible. The country itself has already donated 7.1 trillion rupiah a year just to reforest our country. And therefore, there needs to be a push from our government to have this agenda be pushed forward and implemented as such. Therefore, not only can we put our forest into a better state, but also maintain the current ecosystem that has already been existing since the beginning of our country. And I think that is all for me.